Hello everyone, thank you for coming today. My name is Vladislav and I would like to present you the Prometheus Light application that will replace currently used Bodo tool in managing new and existing donors. The presentation will consist of three parts. First, there will be an introductory part describing how communication will be organized. Then, the process of working with the donor in Prometheus Light will be shown. In conclusion, main points will be summarized. So, let's start by describing the basics of the process. The Vienna Donor Center is represented by the Prometheus Light page in the diagram, and the Austrian Bone Marrow Registry is represented by the Prometheus desktop window. So, the whole process is started by the donor center's worker who creates a new donor record or edits an existing record inside Prometheus Light. Changes are saved using Prometheus REST service running on the Steiner server. These changes are saved to the local database on Steiner server. The data transfer and synchronization from the Steiner server to the Austrian registry is done via symmetric service. Firstly, the full data from the source database is loaded to the target database. Then only changes in the data on the side of source database is sent to target database. We can see an arrow that shows the direction of synchronization between the source database, that is our local database on Steiner server, and the target database, that is the local database on the server of the Austrian registry. At the same time, there is a reverse data synchronization from the local registers database to the MDIS mirror database on the Steiner server. This synchronization allows us to automatically send Austrian data to ZKRD and WMDA institutions on daily basis in order to keep Austrian data up to date. Now, let me describe the process of managing donor records inside Prometheus Light. After opening the URL address of the Prometheus Light in your browser, you will see the following form. You will need to fill in the login credentials in order to proceed to the system. First, please choose your registry. In our case, it is Vienna option. Then, fill an email address of the registered user and password. After all fields are filled, please click on the Sign In button. After logging in, we will first be directed to the home page. Here you can see the menu on the left side containing individual modules for work. First, let's take a closer look at the Donors module. The Donors module is divided into two menus: Donor Errors menu and the menu for a creation of a new record or the editing of an existing donor record. First, we will explore the New Donor menu. Here you can see a table showing basic donor information including grid, name and status. Also, there is a column deleted by QC. We will talk about quality controls later, but saying in brief, donor's data quality is continuously controlled, and in case if any donor has any critical error, the status of such donor will be changed to deleted. Those donors will be marked in the deleted by QC column by yes option. Now let's click on the Add Adult Donor button in order to create a new donor record. Here you can see the following form, which consists of 8 separate tabs. Mandatory fields are marked with a red asterisk, meaning that the donor will not be saved until all mandatory fields are filled. After filling in all the required data and clicking on the Save button, the donor will be saved to the database. Now let's take a look on other tabs. Here we can see a status tab. The only mandatory field on this tab is status, that must always be filled in. Also, we can see here dates of the beginning of the status and its ending. This applies to statuses reserved and if a donor is temporarily unavailable for some reason. We can choose this reason in a status reason field and also indicate the reserved patient's ID in case a donor is reserved. On the DNA tab, we can see results received and imported from the laboratory. The minimum typing here are loci A and B, meaning that until the donor have at least typing results for A and B loci, there will be a warning for these records. IDM tab shows us different infectious disease markers following by their values. We can set these markers either to positive or negative. In case it's not yet tested, just leave the value as unknown. Also, please pay attention to fill in CMV value together with the CMV date value. In case one of these fields is empty, you will get a warning while saving a donor. I will show you an example in the next section. On the medical tab, we can see basic medical parameters of the donor. In case of filling in blood group field value without rhesus value, you will also get a warning. All the fields on this tab, as well as fields on every particular tab, have its own validation. So you will not be able to save incorrect values. For example, weight value cannot be lower than 40 kilograms or contain any letters mixed with numbers. Address tab shows us all donors' contact information. It is possible to fill in a basic contact address, including country, city, zip code, email addresses, and separate mobile, work, and home numbers. I also want to emphasize that all fields have its own validation, so you will not be able to save incorrect zip code, email address, or phone number. You will see the field with incorrect data marked with red color that will help to instantly fix the data. We can see that it is possible to specify a temporary address of a donor with all the same fields as for a basic contact information. Serology tab as well as a DNA tab contains typing results from the laboratory. Even though the priority is given to DNA values, it is possible to work with serology typings. The last tab is called KIR and contains KIR loci types. You just need to select the tested KIR gene and set its value to positive or negative, meaning the presence of KIR gene or its absence respectively. Default value for fields that are not yet tested is unknown. After clicking the Save button, we will be redirected to the basic donor table containing records of all donors. We can see the confirmation label telling us that the donor has been successfully saved. And also, we can see a new donor record in the donors list. In order to edit an existing record, we just need to click on its record and the donors form will be opened. Here we can see the open donors form. We can see that the newly created donor has a grid number that was automatically generated by the system after creating a new record. Below you can see 4 green buttons. I would like to describe these buttons in more details. The Clear button will clear all fields in the current tab. It means that tabs that are not actually opened will not be cleared, but only the actually opened tab. The Cancel button will cancel the creation, editing of the donor and return the user back to the list of all donors. The Save button validates the record and at the same time saves it. After clicking the Save button, the donor will be saved, or in case of any errors, the record will not be saved and the list of errors and warnings will be displayed to the user. For example, with a field CMV value without filling in the CMV date value, we will get corresponding warning. In case the user will not be able to instantly fix the warning, he can click the Ignore Warnings button, which will save the record without paying attention to the found warnings. So, there are two kinds of events that can happen with donor data: errors and warnings. I would like to show you an example of each such event. Let's suppose that the mandatory field birth date was ignored and has not been filled in. Basically, we have two options to save a record. Let's click a Save button. We can see that an error label with the description of an error appeared. In case of clicking the Ignore Warnings button, nothing will change. It will still be impossible to save the record due to the mandatory type of the missing field. As was described earlier, the Ignore Warnings button will ignore only warnings, not errors. Now, let's simulate the warning event type. Let's break the rule saying that the CMV value should always be followed by the CMV date value. We will fill in the CMV value field but ignore the CMV date field. After clicking the Save button, we will see the warning label with the description of the warning appeared. But now we can save the record anyway by clicking the Ignore Warnings button. The confirmation label has appeared, indicating that the record has been successfully updated. Here we can see some of the many validation rules implemented in the system. Each possible warning will be shown when saving the record. In case of ignoring the warning, it will be displayed in the Donor Errors section for further processing. Also, every field is checked for the correctness of input data. You can see some of the errors caused by incorrect data filled in. You may ask, but how can I find a specific donor in the system? There are two filters for this purpose. The first one is the basic filter, allowing you to search donors by one specific parameter in drop-down. For example, we can type a certain string and all donors containing this string will be displayed in the table. It is possible to search donors by their grids, names, date of birth and donor ID. That is an internal donor ID in the system. The second filter can be activated by clicking the Extended Search button. This filter allows you to search donors by several parameters simultaneously. For example, let's specify some value of birth date and click Search. After that, the table will be updated and only donors having the specified date of birth will be displayed. But what if we want to find one particular donor using more than one parameter? For example, we want to display only donor named Alexander having the specified date of birth. Therefore, we need to fill in another search parameter. Let's also specify the name of the donor. After clicking the search button, we can see that donors are filtered, and now there is only one donor that meets our requirements left in the table. Now let's take a look on the second part of the donors module on the donor errors menu. In the donor errors part of the donors module, we can see a table with 4 columns that contains a list of issues found after regular automatic validation of all donor data using quality control application running on the Steiner server. Quality control is an application that permanently monitors data quality, and in case of some issues in data are found, it will be displayed in this table. The grid column corresponds to the identifier of the donor having any errors in data. In the description column we can see the description of an error. The severity column shows us the severity of the error. If the error is critical for subsequent work with the donor, or if we are talking about small errors in data. In case the severity of an error was high, the donor record's status is changed to deleted and the corresponding description is written to the node column. In order to filter the type of the donor errors, we can click on the filter button. Here you can see different error types available to be filtered by. All error types are checked by default and therefore all are displayed in the table below. You can see that there are records with different error types displayed in the table by exploring the data in description column. In order to filter out a specific type of error, you can use the filter indicated by the filter button. We just mark the required error types, and after clicking the filter button, we will see only the type of errors that we have previously set. In order to open a donor record with an error, just click on the corresponding record in the table with errors. The donor's record will be opened and ready for editing the same way as was shown previously. That's all regarding the work with donors. We can see that the process is quite intuitive. Also, there are many different validations, including fields validation and validation of working rules showed earlier. Let's take a closer look on the role group module. Here we can see a role group module on the left side. Let's click on it. After opening the role group menu, you will see a table containing the information of separate role groups. First, I would like to emphasize that this module is rather informative, since you will not need to create a new role group. The term role group means that every role group regulates access rights to each individual module, meaning that users in different role groups will have access to different modules. In order to create a new role group, just click on the Add Role Group button. Basically, there are only two role groups available here: Registry Admin and User. These two groups are already created and predefined, so you will not need to create a new one. Here you can see the difference between the existing role groups. Users in the Registry Admin role group will have access to 5 modules depicted on the picture in the upper left corner. Unlike users in the Registry Admin role group, users role group will have access only to Home and Donors modules shown in the lower right corner. So, to sum up, the role group module just provides access rights for created users to access certain modules. Now let's proceed with the users module. Here we can see a users module in the left side. Let's click on it. We can see a table in which the basic information for each user registered in the system is displayed. Every user has associated role group described earlier, either it's registry admin or user. Status column indicates either a user has verified her email address or not. Account locked indicates if a user has her account locked. That can happen after trying to log in into the system with incorrect password 3 times. Also, information about the password expiry date is available here. In order to create a new user, you need to click an Add User button. Here we can see the form for creating a new user. There are only 3 fields out here: name, email and role group. First, fill in the username and an email address. The email address associated to the created user will be used for account verification and for possible password reset. You can see two status checkboxes below, locked and active. After a new user verifies her email address and sets her password, an active box will be checked, indicating that the account is now active and a user can log into the system. Locked box can be checked if the user's account is locked because of bad authentication attempts. It is possible to manually check or uncheck both checkboxes, but this possibility, as well as creating new users, have only users within the registry admin role group. The last thing here to set is to associate a new user to a specific role group. After filling in all mandatory fields, you can click Save button. You can see the information label saying that the user was successfully saved. After creating a new user, the verification email will be sent to the email address associated with this user. Here you can see how the verification email looks like. After clicking the verification link, a new user will be redirected to the new page to set its password. After that, the user account becomes active and it can log in to the system using its email address and the configured password. In case the user forgot to verify its email address or forgot its password, or verification link has expired, or it's just needed to change user's password, there is an additional managing tool located on the last column named Action in the user's module. After clicking on the indicator corresponding to the specific user, you will see the following page. There are two buttons here: Verify Email button and Reset Password button. Each button will resend an email to the user's email address containing corresponding link, either for email address verification or for the password reset. The history of all emails is displayed in the table, including the name of the person who have generated an email and either the link in the email is still active or not. In addition, there is a Settings button right down under the user's pop-up, with which the user can change user's password by its own. After clicking the Settings button, you will see the following window. Here you can see the Change Password button and basic user's information. After clicking on the Change Password button, the user can safely set a new password bar by herself. Let's sum up. A new user can be created by defining only three parameters: user's name and email address. The last parameter needed to specify is the role group, so the user can either be the registry admin or the user who can only work with donors. The last module to be described is called Default Values. Let's take a closer look on it. Here we can see a Default Values module. Let's look on it. The main idea of the module is to set default values for fields that basically have the same constant value when creating a new donor record. There are three fields here: status, ethnicity, and grid creation mode. Status and ethnicity drop-downs have typical donor values. There are several possible options in the grid drop-down. Default mode will generate grid according to basic standards. AT and HK modes are designed to generate grid according to a specific standard of each corresponding registry. That means that grid will also contain IDs of a specific donor center. As the donors will be transferred to the Austrian registry, the default value in grid field should be set to AT mode. After setting default parameters, we can see that the ethnic field in Basic Data tab and Status field in the Status tab are already set to default values when creating a new donor record. Let me summarize and emphasize main points. Prometheus REST service that takes care of saving the data from web to the database, symmetric service that synchronizes data from to the registry, the web page where donor records are created and edited, all of this is located on the Steiner server. Therefore, we will perform maintenance of the whole system. We will not take care of it. The system is completely web-based, so the only thing you need to have is a web browser. There are many different validation rules that are implemented in Prometheus Light, so the probability of making a mistake in the data is minimized as much as possible. Also, the continuous quality control that is run on saved data will find possible errors that will be displayed to the user. The whole system is designed to be maximally user-friendly. Managing donors and users is as straightforward as possible. That's all. I would like to thank you for your attention.